For those of you who are not part of NYSD or that are looking to be part of NYSD or that are joining our portfolio workshop or that are looking to go to FIT, so many of our students, that's their aspiration. So they come to NYSD and they work on their portfolio because what they really want to do is get to that 2 or 4 year college like FIT. And it's very, very difficult, the portfolio process. And so Matilda and Hannah are really going to help us break it down, the do's and don'ts, even show us an example because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And then Jacqueline, who is NYSD's very own illustrator, instructor, and she also works as an adjunct professor at FIT, could also talk about the parental perspective and how her daughter applied for FIT and is in the fashion design program as well, so that we get that full 360 and really understand, so that when we start our fashion design program, literally for the admission process for the portfolio, you are working directly to actually get the outcome and the trajectory that you want in your personal fashion career. And if that is FIT, that is why we brought Matilda Perez. She's been at FIT for over 20 years, and there's no one better that I could think of to speak about this program than her. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Matilda. She's going to tell you a little bit about her background and really start to decode the portfolio process.
Again, Isabella, thank you for having me here. I'm excited to meet you all, and feel free to ask me any questions. You can put it on the chat and we'll do that at the end of the session. And we're here to answer any questions you have, whether that's me, Jacqueline, or Hannah, because we have our expert who's an adjunct at pre-college. So who better than her to speak to, especially about the fashion design illustration part. So I'm going to begin by, I'm going to turn it over to Hannah. Well, my name is Matilda Perez. I've been at FIT a little bit over 20 years. I've been at admissions the entire time. I started as a counselor associate, and I am currently the recruitment and event manager. So I love what I do. What I love most about my job is that I get to work with the beautiful students. So I have Hannah, who's one of my tour guide leaders, and Hannah's been with me 4 years. So her whole 4 years at FIT, she's been working as a tour guide and works in the admissions. And we really have like a family within a family at FIT all together in the community. I graduated, let's just say, a little bit over 2 decades ago in advertising, marketing, communication myself. And I've taken a few classes in the arts just because I also do like the portfolio critiques and feedback, which is what I'm hoping to be able to deliver today to you folks and answer all of those questions. So I'm going to turn it over to Hannah. And then once we start the presentation, Hannah's going to go over and show you what she did in high school. So what it really looked like for 2 different portfolios coming in straight out of high school, and where her work was at for her associate finishing in fashion design.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah. I officially just graduated FIT. I completed my associate's degree in fashion design, and I actually just completed my bachelor's degree in production management. So I got a little bit of both sides of the coin there with art and design and business. So I've been very fortunate. So like Matilda said, she did a great job introducing me. Oh, thank you very much. We are just going to go through a couple pieces that I submitted for my portfolio. I'll show you some of the work that I did toward the end of my associate's degree, so in that 2nd year of school. And then I'm actually going to share with you guys a portfolio from another one of our fashion design students, a very close friend of mine who came from a very different high school, because I came from a high school that knew nothing about fashion. And my friend's portfolio, she came from a high school who was very focused in fashion, more of like a magnet school type of deal. So you guys get to see 2 very different portfolios, but both that I think help, because somehow, some way, we both ended up in FIT. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for having me. And I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen now to start the presentation. Thank you. It says I'm sharing, but nobody was able to see that, right?
We were able to see it, but then it went away.
Okay, so let me take off I'm not gonna put myself on mute, and just let me know if you're able to see this.
Yeah.
All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect, so, okay, Hannah.
All right, so like I said, my name is Hannah. I'm going to be sharing some of my portfolio pieces today. So this is me when I was a senior in high school. I'm modeling one of my garments. So for FIT, we needed two or three sewn pieces to show kind of your sewing skill and your creativity in that aspect. I submitted two. I submitted a dress and a pair of shorts. I was very proud of this. I knew nothing about sewing, about fashion, about anything when I was starting my portfolio. So I was a little overwhelmed, to say the least. But honestly, YouTube really helped me out a lot, kind of going on those like DIY videos and then just trying to piece it all together. There is a little bit of trial and error there, but everybody goes through it. So you're not alone. It's not ever going to come out perfect on the first go. Trying, don't give up. So like I said, this is just one of my pieces that I put together. And then on the next slide, yep, these are some of my drawings. So for the portfolio, you needed a mini collection and then a mix and match collection. The mix and match collection is the same shirt on both models. I needed a pair of pants, a skirt, and a jacket. So sewing was where I flourished, I guess, in my portfolio, because I personally, I loved sewing a lot more than I loved drawing. And I think that actually comes across a little bit in my portfolio. But I really worked very hard on my drawing. I experimented with a lot of different mediums. I ended up falling in love with Photoshop, believe it or not. So I sketched out all my figures by hand, and then I scanned them into the computer and rendered them all on Photoshop, which I think was a really cool skill to show in my portfolio, just that I was able to, venture out there and try something new. But so, like I mentioned, those are just a couple of my drawings. And then on the next slide, this is just some of my current work. So when I say current work, I do mean the end of my associate's degree. So this is 2 years ago at this point. But so the jacket on the left is from the fall of my sophomore year, so the fall of my second year. In fashion design, you do a jackets and coats class. So actually just a little peek into how IT works in fashion design. Your first semester, so that's the fall of your freshman year, you do all your basic silhouettes. So like your basic top, your basic skirt, just to get those foundational skills built and strong. Then your second semester, which would be the spring of your freshman year, you work on soft silhouettes. So draping, like different kinds of soft fabrics to feel how that's different from like your structured basic silhouettes. And then this jacket is what I'm talking about for the third semester. That would be the fall of your sophomore year. You do a jackets and coats class, which I loved personally. It was one of my favorite classes at FIT. Really got to experiment with different kinds of collars and sleeve types, and you really just got to go crazy with your creativity and your freedom, and your professors really kind of let you go. So this was a very big challenge. That jacket has a huge cape on the back. It was inspired by a Balenciaga 1950s gown that I had seen, and I kind of went with it. And then on the right side right here, that dress is from the spring of my sophomore year. So the spring of your sophomore year, because it's the end of your associate's program, you actually get to do an exhibition garment. So you get a overarching theme. Everybody in fashion design gets this overarching theme, and you get to really express yourself. You get to go in whatever direction you want to, and you get to really design whatever your heart wants to do. And then you get to work with critics and work one-on-one with your professors. And you really get kind of like that real life industry experience with working with all of these people. You get critiques and you get to work on it over the course of half the semester, 3/4 of the semester, I believe. So it's a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And it's such an amazing feeling when you finally finish. And then the critics come around and pick pieces that are selected to go into the exhibition. I was fortunate enough to be picked for the exhibition. So really, it was just a great way to put a bow on the end of my associate's degree there. Then on the next slide, These are some of my drawings from my sophomore year. I like to say that I am proof that FIT's education works, because as you can see, there was a big jump in my drawing skills. Toward the beginning of my sophomore year, I actually discovered my love for watercolor, which honestly, I did not even know was a medium that you could use in your drawings and your renderings, but one of my professors kind of opened my mind to it, and I fell in love with it. It allowed me to be more fluid. Did I have a theme for my portfolio? That's a great question. So in my portfolio, I had to include a mood board and everything. And I tried to keep my theme, I guess, pretty consistent through obviously like my mix and match collection and through my mini collection. And even my pieces kind of, I guess, in a sense, relate to one another, but I didn't have a theme that went all throughout, if that makes any sense. I kept my themes specific to the projects because for the portfolio, it's 3 separate projects. So the sewing project, the mix and match collection, and the mini collection. So I kept individual themes, but that's just how I went about it.
And sorry, Hannah, to interrupt. I'm going to cover the portfolio requirements after the presentation in details of what's needed, what you should be working on. So I'll make sure that I'll cover the portfolio requirements.
And Hannah, don't worry if anybody asks a question, don't feel like you have to field them just at the end. If we don't cover it, we'll address it at that point.
Perfect. Thank you both. So like we were saying, this is just a different kind of medium. It's watercolor, and believe it or not, I like to draw in my free time now. So that's exciting. That's something I never thought I'd be able to say, but here we are. So on the next slide, this is just some of my tips and tricks for how I like to say that my portfolio went smoothly. This is what I like to focus on and what I think is important to tell other people when they're doing their portfolio. So for me, those YouTube DIY videos really helped my skills. That's because, like I said, I came from a high school that didn't really know much about fashion design at all. So YouTube videos really helped me. And then also, like I said, just putting it together piece by piece and starting slow and not getting too frustrated with myself. So tip number 2, definitely experiment with mediums before you start working on your portfolio, because you want to do your portfolio in a medium that you're comfortable with. And that translates into tip number 3, because you're not going to be able to put your best self forward if you're not totally comfortable with what you're working in. Tip number 4, study real garments while you're doing your drawings. I know this seems kind of silly, but it's true, because as much as we think we know what a jacket looks like, you don't. You don't know where the seam lines are going to go. You don't know where the zippers are, the buttons are, until you're actually looking at the garment. So if at all possible, when you're trying to design a garment and drawing it for the first time or even for the 17th time, have a garment that resembles it. Have a garment that gives you the same feeling of the one you're trying to design or draw, because it'll really help you get those details down and really take it up a level. And then tip number 5 is my personal favorite. Personality is more important than perfection. You're going to college, you're going to that art school because you don't know everything yet. That's okay. You're going to learn. So honestly, if you can put your whole heart, your whole personality into your portfolio, you can't ask any more of yourself than that. So good luck. Those are all of my tips for you. And then on the next slide, we're actually going to go into one of my friends' portfolios as well. So I like to start off with mine because, like I mentioned, time and time again, I came from a school that did not focus in fashion design at all. And I made it to FIT and did it. I did all the work and I got in. Now, this is someone coming from a very different side of the spectrum. Maria is amazing. She went to a magnet school in high school, so she studied fashion design for 4 years before college. So this is just a totally different spin on the portfolio. She was definitely at a level that was, in my opinion, slightly higher than my portfolio because she had 4 more years of experience on me. But she is truly amazing, so we wanted to share her work with you guys too. So this on the left is one of her sewn pieces. She obviously designed it all herself, and then in order to take that dress up a level, it's an acetone print on the dress itself. So she ended up making it and then printing on it herself, which was just absolutely beautiful. And then on the right side, this was a dress in her school's runway show that she got to actually incorporate into her portfolio too. And to that question that we had before, these are in the same theme. So the dress and the 2-piece garment on the right do correlate with one another. So on the next slide, these are some of her drawings. So as you can see, Maria loves to draw. Maria excels in drawing. So these are a couple of her, or these were both of her projects for that FIT portfolio. So on the top, you have the mix and match collection. She has her flats up there and everything, so you can see all of those technical details. She's got her color swatches. Her rendering is always done with marker. Still to this day, it's what she loves to use. She loves going by hand, really getting in there with the markers and then colored pencils to finish up. And then on the bottom is that mini collection as well. Same idea with the color swatches and the mood board and those beautiful figures of hers. So on the next slide, we have some of Maria's current pieces. Maria now specializes in special occasion. So after your 2 years at FIT, pick a specialization if you want to continue in fashion design. And so there's 5 of them. There's knitwear, special occasion, sportswear, intimate apparel, and children's wear. So Maria, like I mentioned, or as you can tell from the wedding dress on the left, went into special occasion. So during her junior year, she got the chance to make a wedding dress at home, believe it or not, because of COVID. So she really took that time that she was, she's spending a little extra time at home, and she really put all of her energy into this bridal gown, and it truly is beautiful. Also, Maria studied abroad during her second year. So during the last year of her associate's degree, she was in Florence, Italy, and that's where these 2 pieces in the middle and on the right are being showcased. So she actually got the opportunity to present her garments in a museum in Florence. And the middle picture is her exhibition garment, just like how we were talking about mine a little while ago. This is Maria's. And she got chosen for the exhibition as well and got that opportunity, like I said, to exhibit her garment in a museum, which just by the pictures too is just absolutely breathtaking. So she's very grateful for that experience as well. And then on the next slide, so this is Maria's CFDA project. So your junior year of fashion design, it's a very big project. And these are just some of her figures from it. So she spent countless hours on this, but she will tell you that she's just so proud of it, and as she should be. Look at it, it's absolutely stunning. So even these, like her portfolio, she sticks with the marker and the colored pencils. Everything is hand drawn. She does organize her figures on Photoshop and Illustrator, but like I said, she does them all by hand, and then once they're fully rendered, she scans them in and organizes them on that beautiful backdrop in the Adobe suites. So then on the next slide, this is just Maria's advice for you. Tip number 1, use fashion magazine models as reference for your illustrations. So just like we were talking about how you want to use those garments, use the fashion magazine models, because sometimes in our head, a piece of clothing will fall a little different on the human body than it actually does in real life. So taking a peek at those models will actually really help you, like we said before, take your drawings up to the next level. Also, tip number 2, explore as much as you can with different techniques. Now's the time to do it. You want to experiment. Like I said before, you want to be comfortable, you want to be confident, you want to be able to put your whole self into your portfolio. So definitely explore. Try all of the mediums. Even if you don't like it, at least you know you don't like it, and then you can move on to the next one. Tip number 3, be creative and unique. Express yourself through the work that you do. Everybody will tell you this. Definitely be creative, push yourself, go outside of that little box that we all have, and really see what you can do. Tip number 4, practice, especially in sewing, your technique will be more precise. Maria, when she started her portfolio, loved to draw. So she focused more on drawing than she did on sewing. And she says that, throughout FIT on all of her homework, she just practice, went over and over her sewing techniques. And it just comes so much more naturally to her now, that she's equally as strong in drawing and sewing. So definitely take the time to practice. It'll be well worth it in the end. And tip number 5, be open to critique and listen to it. Just because it's much easier to listen or be open to critique than it is to actually let it sink in and listen to it and let it affect your style in a way. So you don't ever have to change who you are, but just be open to hearing critique from, your professors, your mentors, your critics that you'll meet. And just go for it. And I'm sure that Maria will tell everybody here, good luck. We're all crossing our fingers for you, and hopefully, I guess I will not see you at FIT now that I'm not there anymore, but, maybe Matilda will. And good luck, everybody. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Hannah. And here are just some links for you folks to write down if you want more information on the portfolio. I'm going to go over the requirements, and I'm also going to cover portfolio day with you as well.
And we're recording this, so we will send you all of the links, and it will have it in, we'll put it in the chat as well.
Perfect.
So it's really great, and I think one of the best things that as we move into portfolio that we're doing this summer, to have those mentors to really guide you is what this is really all about. So Matilda, I'll give it to you for the requirements so that we can really understand what the requirements are other than the 3 parts. There's also an essay requirement, right, Matilda?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot involved within your application process overall. The portfolio itself for fashion design, it's going to be the garments, the 3 projects that Hannah explained. And thank you, Hannah. You did lovely, wonderful explaining all that and Maria's work. I appreciate it. And I really just wanted to give you an insight to see 2 portfolios, because they always say the visual aspect is great, but yet it's also terrifying, right? If I show you just Maria's portfolio, then it's, wow, that's what I need to get in. And Hannah, that came from a different background, 2 students that were just as equally admissible and both got into FIT. So we're still looking at your academics, right? So that B average, a 3.0 GPA or above, and then really that portfolio. And the portfolio is really going to be who you are as a designer. So part of the portfolio is you do need to do that mood board, right? So what's the mood board? Where are we going? Where are we going? What's demographics? And then what's the climate? So we also do, the mood board is going to be for the mix and match especially, and the mix and match is going to be, you have a shirt, a pair of pants, a jacket, and a skirt. Make me 2 outfits for the weekend and use the shirt twice. So you could get, and when I use the word creative, sometimes people think like creative means like really go out the box. No, it could still be ready to wear, but it's going to be you as a designer. And give me something that's I always
sorry, Lydia, can you please mute your... Thank you. Sorry, Matilda.
No, thank you. When you're doing your mix and match and you're doing, it could be ready to wear, it could be out the box, it could be couture design. It's really what defines you as a designer. And just like Hannah was mentioning, start looking at clothing and design. If you're into evening attire, I tell students, go to Lord & Taylor, go to the evening section, look at those gowns, take them in and out to see what they're made of, to know what the fabric feels like. So if I have a student that perhaps designs something and you're great at designing, not constructing, and you decided, I don't know, your mood board is mountains and we're going to Alaska and you're going to do wool, but then you decide you're going to drape on that. Just on your design, can you physically drape on wool? So that's why I always say, go look at the fabric, touch it to see how that falls. And that's really going to help you in your design. And one design creates another design. So you can look at one design and from there you have a complete other idea of how that gown could be made and you make another design from it. In addition to that, it is going to be your croquis. So the body figure, the illustration part, that is a very important part of the portfolio. So I tell students, if you don't know how to do that and you're still practicing, YouTube, I say, is your best friend. You can learn how to cook, sew, everything. It teaches you little steps. Definitely if you're able to take a class, even better, and the pre-college program at FIT or going to NYSD, because they have the foundation courses there for you to really teach you and show you the ropes of what a portfolio looks like, and you're working on that to prepare for your admissions into FIT. The pre-college program at FIT is great. I have a lot of students that if they know how to draw but they don't know how to sew, I'll recommend that they come take a sewing class with us or vice versa, because you're getting the professors that are teaching it, that are looking at your portfolio to actually show you what it is that they're looking for. So the croquis, don't trace it. You could do that for practice, but in reality, we want it to be freehand. It's really going to be your own. After you create your own, then you could mimic that, trace it, and that's still your own croquis for you to use, okay? So I say, like, once you're learning, if you go to YouTube, we do the 9-headed or 10-headed body figure, right? So it's literally 10 circles, and it'll show you how to create that illustration body from there. So everything is a click away, and it's getting those resources that you need. In addition to that, I will tell everyone, if you haven't ever attended National Portfolio Day, I highly recommend it. We did it last year. I'm actually one of the board officers to the National Portfolio Day organization. So we did it virtually. So even if you can't come to the one in New York, we're still going to have some virtual events. And what we do there is give you feedback, give you critiques. So you'll bring your portfolio, take pictures of those garments, and we're going to go over what's working, what's not working, and where we need you to be by the time that you're actually applying, because everything happens rather quickly. Once you apply, it's like your portfolio is due right after that. So I always say, work on it as much time as you have, whether that's a freshman, sophomore, junior. Work on your portfolio as often and as much as you can. Try to learn how to work with color markers, and watercolors are great. And Hannah was able to show you what she was doing with that. But markers bring your work to life. They tend to bleed, right? So you really got to start practicing with that. But don't be afraid of using a different medium that you've never used, which I think Hannah said that. Like, work with it and see what is it that I enjoy doing and what comes out of that. And then you're really going to pick and choose. For FIT specifically, you don't have to do a collection. So we showed you 2 different portfolios from students coming into FIT. It's completely up to you. I could tell you that I like diversity and I want to see different stuff. And then there could be another faculty that loves to see a collection. So it's really what's your best work that's going to show you as a designer that you're going to show us. But for your garments, I say it's going to be the basic sewing, but we are looking at the rendering, the sewing techniques, because you have to really come into FIT with that foundation skill set prior to coming to us, because once you come to FIT, you're working on from the moment you walk in. So at FIT, what I love that as a student, and the most of my students still say to this day, is there isn't a foundation course where it's not like you're coming in for 1 year undeclared, let me figure it out. And that's fine for those that need that. FIT is really for that student. I've wanted this, I want it, and I know I could do it. So as soon as you get to FIT, you're jumping right into it. You're working on that collection. You're doing those garments. You're doing your illustrations. It's not really the baby stuff. Yes, we're still at college to teach you, right? But you're sort of coming in with that foundation and at least the inspiration that you know you could be a designer. All we're looking at is the artwork that you're submitting. You have to be your biggest advocate and your biggest believer is what I say. If you don't believe in yourself, then that's going to be on you on how far you're going to go. You got to want it, put the time in, put the work in, and it'll come through and it'll show. I mean, again, we showed you completely 2 different portfolios. And I still remember when Hannah first saw Maria's portfolio, she's like, and I submitted, and I'm like, no, your portfolio still had the techniques for us to be able to tell she's going to succeed at this with the grade point average and everything else that comes with it. But the portfolio, you do have to have a strong portfolio. So I don't want to make it like really light that it's not. You do have to have a strong portfolio to come into FIT. It is competitive, but I always really believe, and as long as I work there, is that the student that wants it and works for it will make it happen. We have another student, Stephanie, who graduated. And Stephanie, just like Hannah, Stephanie came from a school, didn't have any fashion design background, never sewn, never was doing any drawing. She was more of like the fine art. That's the type of artwork that she was getting. And she wanted FIT. And I was one of the recruiters. And I worked with Stephanie 4 years. And when I say 4 years, Stephanie came, she did our pre-college program for 3 years. She took classes at Jones, I think it was, for sewing. And she really pulled her work through. When it was time to apply, I was even like, oh, wow. She had none of this at her high school. And she still found the resources to really be able to continue with what she inspired to be, which was a designer. The great thing about FIT is that we are a family. You're going to meet great and fabulous people. And it's a connection for life. The connections you have with the professors, with the students, from students to student, it really goes on for life. I love working there, and I say the best part of my job is working with the tour guide program. I get to work with 30 beautiful students, 30 to 35, and still to this day when they graduate, I get to speak to them. We get to meet up for lunch. So it's great not having just a memo of Rachel graduated. I'm like, no, no, no. I know Rachel for 4 years. I know she did. She graduated, and this is what she's doing. I know Hanan, who graduated, and he got the Critic Award for knitwear design, and he's currently working with J. Crew. I also have another student that graduated, Laura. She did evening wear, and she's currently working for Michael Kors, and they actually paid for her as a freelancer to go to Europe to pay for her master's degree there. So the connections go a very long way. The sky is the limit. If you want it, you're going to do it, and you're going to put the work in for it. And I love FIT. I mean, and really it's a lovely place to be in, and the connections that you have there from a faculty. You can have one of your professors that's offering you a job. They're in the industry, which for me, that's the most valuable thing. It's not that this is their full-time job. They're doing this, and I don't want to say like it's a hobby to them, but it is. It's really a passion to them. They love it, and they want to pay it forward. And they're with us to teach the new designers, the new students to go into the industry, and they have their full-time job. So they're bringing to you real life experience of what's going on in the industry. So you could be getting a job offer from one of the professors from their company or someone that they know. And I'll tell you it's happened, because I've had students that are constantly, like whether it's an internship, sometimes it's from another student that graduated and they were in the tour guide program together, or they were RAs and one graduated before the other. And they're like, there's a position, send me your resume. So there's a lot to say for FIT, but even more to say with the work that you have, and you gotta want it. You have to want it and put the work in for it.
Thank you so much for all of that information. So what about the essay? How does that weigh compared to the portfolio? I think that, and then also something else that you mentioned, you had said that you had a student that you worked with for years. So if they've been rejected in the past, what do you recommend if they're coming to NYSD to take either our portfolio class or our foundational basics, so that they can focus on their portfolio? And that's why we have Jacqueline here today, because, you know, it's a small industry. You know, you think fashion is so huge, but you know, FIT is my alma mater, and I'm here, and everybody that works here at NYSD, we all know each other at FIT. And, you know, it's a small world, but these students, a lot of them have tried to work on their portfolio without the guidance. And now that they're coming for the guidance, what is any key things that they can focus on with their portfolio, maybe second time around?
Right. So it really depends. I always tell the students, it depends why they got denied. So you could still have a great portfolio, and if your academics are not there, and I work in admissions for 20 years, you could have an A portfolio. So it's really, what was the reason the student didn't get in? Was it artistically their work, their garments, or was it the GPA? If we know for a fact that it's their portfolio, then was it the sewing? Was it the croquis? Was it their illustrations that they're doing? Think out the box. And when I say out the box, especially if you're thinking of jeans, don't give me a pair of jeans that look like any jeans I could walk into Target, the Gap. They're just a pair of jeans. If you're going to do a pair of jeans or design them, you're drawing them, add something to it, right? So whether that's lace, give me something that you created, not something that is in every store that we go to and see, because that's not new and fresh, right? So like I said, there's always, you see one design and you create another design. So give me something different, even if it is ready to wear, because we say we want to see ready to wear, but give me something different when you're creating those designs. For each student is different. And I'm going to be honest with you, Isabella, because it depends. For some students, it could be their illustrations. It could be their sewing techniques. So their garments that they need more sewing classes. So I really say, if you have a student that has gotten denied, call us to find out, because the only way that you're going to rectify it and really be able to work on it is knowing what's in my portfolio and what about my portfolio. So then we can really guide you into what is it that you need to work on, whether that's a semester or another year prior to applying to FIT again. So
Okay,
more the following.
thank you for that. Can you give us a little bit of the deadlines now? So if they're applying, they're getting in for the fall of 2022 at this point. And what is the deadline for submission?
So applications start as early as August, believe it or not. So it's really a full year round. Most students start applying in October, September when they get back to school, but most students will start applying in October. Applications have to be submitted by January 1st. So when I say January 1st, that's the SUNY application. So the initial application that you submit has to be filed by January 1st. And then all other documents has to be completed by April 1st. So that includes your portfolio, your transcripts, and the essay. Hannah, you could, if I'm wrong on that.
February 1st.
Sorry, I'm saying April. Sorry, you're right. February 1st. Oh my God. Thank you, Hannah. April 1st is when we notify you. Thank you. By February 1st, the application has to be completed with everything submitted.
And what can you speak on regarding the essay? Should the essay have a theme, and should you have this running? You know, you talked a little bit about mood boards, and you know, some of these students have not started either our foundational course or the portfolio course yet, which begins on June 28th and on July 5th respectively. But they might not know what a mood board is. And so in their mood board, when they're creating this color story, when they're creating a mood and a feel for what demographic, meaning who are they trying to sell to, does that run straight through into their essay? Should it be a continuous theme?
So I think there's two different things. The essay I'm talking about is the general essay that they submit. The one for the portfolio, they're going to have to explain their design. So the ones for the portfolio, it's like a paragraph for each of their designs that they're going to be submitting. So that's different. There's only one essay that the students are submitting for their application, which is why FIT, where do you see yourself, anything that's going to highlight your application. So I say take the essay as if that was an interview, right? What about you tells me that you want to go into fashion design? Give me more of when did you inspire to become a designer? Not so much the telling me you love clothing. I love clothing too, and I don't want to become a designer. Like really think, when was it that I decided that a designer is what I want to be? Write about that and anything that's going to highlight your application in your essay.
Great. And so Victoria asked a question. I don't know, maybe this is a Jacqueline question. She said, what should I do if I have an idea for a dress, but don't know the materials required to make it?
Sorry, you froze for 1 second. Hi, everybody. I'm Jacqueline. Nice to meet you all. Sorry, can you ask that or say the question again?
Sure. Victoria had asked, what should I do if I have an idea for a dress, but don't know the materials required to make it?
Take a course at New York School of Design. Seriously, I teach at FIT. I do the pre-college. I work with Michelle very closely. I do the week in the life of a fashion designer, which is the glamorous introduction to it all. But backpedaling with New York School of Design it's a little bit more detailed when it comes to those sort of things. It's learning to put movement of a fabric onto a croquis. It's actually developing a croquis and giving them the tools to get them to the level of portfolio application. Now FIT do a pre-college course, which is similar, which is the mini collection. But it's not that you're comparing apples and oranges. They're just different contents on different courses. But a lot of the students I teach at New York School of Design really have had no background in fashion at all. And it's really taking them from scratch. And it's going from the croquis, which we talked about on YouTube earlier, the 10-head croquis, which is where I do start them and I make them watch the videos. And then what I do is I try and get into their personalities. The average class I have could be 12, 14 people, and going into kind of break off rooms or whatever and talk with them. So as you said earlier, it's finding the personality of the person through the clothing. And I have met kids or whatever that I want to do men's and I want to do ladies, I want to do evening wear and I want to do couture. And I'm like, no, because there's a specific frame that's given to you by FIT and other schools and colleges. So we have to backpedal and bring them to where they need to be, and then focus on A, the structure, which is their croquis, and then B, the fabrication, coloration. And also the one thing that's very good that we spend a lot of time on, it's a 6-week program and a 12-week program. I think that Isabella can give you all those details, but I just go on the creative mode. So I start with the croquis, and then I go from croquis to personality, and personality to develop their own croquis. No tracing, no downloading, no Googling, no. FIT will know it, spot it, and smell it, because most of the croquis that are on Google belong to Anna Kuiper. And guess where she teaches? Yes, FIT. Guess who has 2 of the most famous books in fashion illustration? Anna Kuiper. And I know Anna's work. I can spot it a mile away. So
we actually use her book for our portfolio class.
I do, and I train the kids to look at, I work with Catherine Hagen's book, and I work with Anna Kuiper, because I want them to start looking at the difference in the recognition. I call it croquis, it's like a personal handwriting. When you put a signature, and I hope Matilda would probably agree with me, there's a certain handwriting when we sign a check or sign a document that's instantly recognizable to ourselves, like a fingerprint. The croquis becomes that. And when Matilda looks at it, or whoever at FIT, they know immediately whether you did it, you had somebody else do it, or it's a kind of mixture of a few friends came over on Saturday night and helped you with it, okay? They can spot it, and so can I, because when you're in the business a long time, you're trained to see these things. So these guys have diamond vision, so you need to give them that exact precision. So with New York School Design, I try and work on that, and no cheating, keep them very focused, and also doing renderings. Now, Matilda, as you know, Anna Kuiper, an amazing, absolutely superb, probably one of the most, I would say, I would respect the most in the fashion world for fashion illustration. I have never seen or made a comparison with any other fashion illustrator other than her work. It's just phenomenal. And I've sat in on her classes, and I have learned from her, and I've actually met her on 1 or 2 occasions and asked her advice on certain things. So what I've learned from her and learned from other people is this finding out who you are, getting to know who your character is and your croquis, and then getting the tools to learn A, the fabrication, B, a certain amount of renderings. You do not have to know all the renderings to apply to FIT, but they would like to see that you had a little bit of movement on your croquis, a little bit of styling, a thought process to the fabrication, and some basis of cotton versus organza versus silk, and knowing the difference between fabrications. So that's kind of what I offer in the course, is that kind of backpedaling, step-by-step process to bring you to the level of a portfolio, so it makes sense. So when you're presenting it to a Matilda or whoever, we've given you the tools to find out who you are to develop this process. But I don't design your collection, you do. But I will critique you if you're not following the format, if it's for a school A, B, C, or D. It could be St. Martin's in London. It could be the New York School of Design. It could be anywhere. It could be FIT. It could be Parsons. You have to read what their requirements are, and you have to design your collection based on their requirements. I do not do that for you. I teach you the tools to A, do croquis, B, do movement, 3 color. And also I help you if you wanted to drop a print into your, what's the word I'm looking for, a collection or mini collection or application. I would help you in that area. If you wanted to do a houndstooth, you wanted to do a plaid or a stripe, you wanted to do an off-the-shoulder frill, I would give you the tools to do that. So that's kind of where I come in. Does that explain it?
Yes. Yeah, I think it did in detail. And I think that that's the difference between, you know, it's a certain level for you to take that YouTube class. You definitely want to go to the National Portfolio Conference. But then in addition, you need that practice. And it's a lot easier when you are handheld and walking through the process with people that want to give you what it is that you want. And tonight we're all here because we want to move on and move up to FIT. So I think that that's really the crucial aspect, and one of the keys that what Jacqueline said, and I think that Matilda and Hannah also expressed that quite well, is that there are very specific rules and requirements to the portfolio process. And it is important for you to read them and then make them your own so that it is a unique, branded situation for your own personal self, and that will continue throughout your trajectory of your career. And so, you know, it starts right here. And like Matilda said, this is not an easy process, but that's what we are here for. That's why we are having this session tonight, this workshop, so that we can obtain any of the knowledge. And if there's any more questions, please put them in the chat while we have Matilda and Hannah here. And that's why we do these portfolio workshops. That one is starting July 5th. We also have the basic foundations that's starting on June 28th. And a lot of our students actually work through, because something else, Matilda, I do want to ask you, is that, so say they didn't excel academically in high school, and they came to New York School of Design and they want to work on their portfolio, but their portfolio may not hold up because, again, you're considering those grades. So what if they went through to our certification program and had a full year and then had a wow portfolio? Does the grades, you know, not get looked at so much from high school? What's that in-between student look like for you? Because we do have a lot of students that take our full certification and then apply for FIT.
No, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. I would still recommend that any student that needs to get the full certification to build those skill sets that they need to get into FIT, completely worth it to do it. However, if it's the academics, then they will still have to go, whether that's to a community college, to get the GPA up, because we are looking at both. So it's the full package that FIT is looking at. It's that student that has the academics with that strong portfolio coming in as well. And that could be that if they're going there for, I call it a semester, right? Or to take your coursework and you feel they're ready for their portfolio, they might just have to go for a community college for one semester. Take 12 credits, which is 4 classes, right? So your English, math, science, history. Shoot to get an A, you walk out with a B, a B+, your GPA goes up now. But it has to be a little bit of both.
Okay, so
we're looking at the application.
3.0 is where their GPA needs to be.
Correct. For a traditional application, applicant coming out, minimum of a B average coming in.
But it's also really important for the business, because I work still in fashion. And it's a business. At the end of the day, it's not all fruit, fruits, and feathers in Vegas costumes, which a lot of people do think they come into it. I'm sorry. And they're like, but I want to do feathers. I want to, no. The bottom line is it's a business. And there's people in it that makes money. And you're learning the craft to make a business, to go in as an employee in a company. And no matter how good you are as a designer, and I will tell you from my perspective, the best designers are the ones that sell. And that's it. Bottom line. Sorry, that was my cat jumping around the place. But the longer you are in the business, you can have the best portfolio in the world, and you can be brilliant when it comes to certain sketches and illustrations. But taking your sketch and turning it into an actual tech pack, making the garment and having it run through production, which is why I understand Matilda's voice of the common sense of your thought process and intelligence needs to carry you through the business. Because you're not just an artist sitting in a studio like Jackson Pollock doing paintings all day long. You have to interact with people. You have to deal with salespeople. You have to deal with buyers. And sometimes they're very difficult. And sometimes buyers walk into your room and they kind of go, I want a sleeve like this. And you're going, is that like a raised sleeve? Is there a tuck in there? Or they go, well, no, it's like just this. And they could be working for Bloomingdale's, and you've got to sit there and go, okay, let me just do a little rendering or fashion sketch. Are we here? And she goes, oh, that's it. Or maybe not as puffy, or you want whatever. And it's your personality. So I can understand where Matilda is. It's all of you when you sit in a room with all of these characters and people. And sometimes they're not easy people to work with in the fashion industry. There's a lot of personalities coming from different directions. You're dealing with production, you're dealing with design, you're dealing with fabric, and you're dealing with egos. And there are many of them, okay? And it's that equation as designers, you know, that you've got to put all of these pieces together. So, and I'm still in it, and I've been in it for, let's just say over 2 decades, Matilda. I'll go with you on that, but mine's over, way over. But it's been a very good journey, because I started with Jessica Simpson. I then moved to Guess. And then I went from guest to the head designer for DKNY when it was bought over from Louis Vuitton by Hennessy. And I was working with Morris Goldfarb at the time. And they asked me to head the dresses for DKNY. So the reason that I moved along in this process was because at the end of the day, it wasn't how good my designs were. They sold at retail in department stores. That's how good a designer is. And when people see my stuff and it's in Marshalls now and TK Maxx, just letting you all know, the bottom line is the top tier of luxury is suffering due to COVID. But the true designer can go from this tier to this tier to this tier and bounce back up again.
So the bottom line is the bottom line.
Bottom line. And people who are buying and have the biggest, what we call pen pushers at the moment, when they write the orders for 87,000 units last week, is TK Maxx, Marshalls, and Ross stores. Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus are not writing orders for 100,000 units every week. Just letting you know. If you go to Bloomingdale's, go to Marshalls, go to Neiman Marcus, and I guarantee you the line in Marshalls is out the door. Anybody been there recently? Yeah.
True.
Okay. Do you see lines like that in Bergdorf Goodman at the moment? Hermes, Chanel? Anyone? So the point of being a good designer is knowing where your customer is. And the other thing I tell my students is you should every week be in H&M, Zara, Macy's, walk around every department store and look at who's in the store. Look who's buying the shopping bag. And when they hold a bag, what is the person's size? What's their color? What are they wearing? What bag are they holding? So you've got to get to know your customer, because that's who, at the end of the day, when you do a collection, you're designing for. So you've got to make that choice. I think Hannah will get that off. She's learned that at FIT, and it's a really crucial point. And by the way, Hannah, your work and the other young lady that I saw, Maria, or who's it? Yes, was it Maria? Superb. And I understand why both of you got in, and I can see it. And it's almost like a trained eye when you're in the business of seeing a talent before it blossoms. Okay? And, you know, so many people have it. Just get the tools to put this portfolio together so we can get in and knock down the door by Matilda.
That's right.
And Matilda will go, oh, they've been with that woman, Jacqueline, again. Oh,
They've been with Jacqueline. It's fine. I can tell their work.
Like you said, if we're really unsure of where the miss was with their portfolio, we would hope that we can reach out and say, hey, this was the portfolio. Where do you think we need to work on for them to change that next process for them?
Absolutely. You have my email, so you could contact me directly, and I'll work with you and your students. Absolutely. So if you have one or a few of those students, reach out to me. I could look up their portfolio, and we could have that phone call conversation and really go over it. And I'll speak to Jacqueline and show her and tell her this is what we got. This is where we're at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my daughter applied to FIT, and she's going into her third year in fashion. And being a designer, she's like, "Can you help me do this sewing? Can you?" I was like, "No. Most people will know. They will know." So she had to go, and she wants to make a really cool pair of pants. And she's very, I won't say goth girl. She's really found her place. And the reason I talk about it is because there was two things that really why she got in. One was she had to write an essay. And she wrote the essay based on, is that my feedback? We're okay. I think we're okay. She wrote the essay on the basis that she went to Catholic school and that the nuns wouldn't let her express herself because she wore this really nasty uniform. And I have to say it was not a great uniform. But her essay was based on the fact that she would actually hide clothes in the bottom of her rucksack under her clothes. And she would then get piercings that she would hide so the nuns wouldn't see them. But her essay was about the fact that she loved fashion so much and felt a huge frustration in not being able to express herself through the last 2 years of high school, which is where one is beginning to identify their own personality and who they are. And she felt like she was really hemmed in a bubble by these women who didn't understand her. And yet she had to find other ways of expressing herself. And that was the basis and story of her essay. And I thought it was very clever and a very clever take on art and expression. And then when she couldn't really sew, we bought a sewing machine from Walmart.com. It was $129. And she said, "Would you do it, Mom?" And I went, no, you really want to get into this business? It's tough from the beginning, the middle, and it'll push you through to the end, and you have to have a passion. Chanel said there are only two types of designers: those that are good and those that are not. Okay, that was Gabrielle Coco Chanel. But she couldn't make the pants and she couldn't make a pattern. And Matilda, you'll get this. She ran into a thrift store. She was going through. She bought a pair of trousers or pants for $5. She ripped them apart. She put them down on the fabric. She took photographs with her iPhone as to, before she took them apart, where they were all sewn, how the pocket went in. She peeled them back like she was peeling an orange. And then she reversed her video to make the pants for her submission. And she was delighted with herself. And the only thing she couldn't really do was the zipper part. So she put it in by hand because she didn't know how to sew it and whatever. And it was basically, I don't know, Matilda, I'm not on the admissions committee, but I think it was the fact that she thought about doing it in a different way. And she did put that on her actual application, that she had bought this pants, ripped them up, had this cool fabric, and then photographed herself wearing them, which, as Hannah did, the older, they looked really good. So it gives you, my big thing though as a parent, and I'm sure your parents are freaking out, I understand where your parents are coming from, is don't miss your deadlines, because you're doing this a whole day. And there's deadlines and you have to get it into the portal and you have to have it there on time. So Matilda gets it all in that little portal for that one day, so that she's not running around looking for an essay or a transcript or whatever. And mothers and fathers or guardians or whoever are running around like headless chickens for 3 weeks. Matilda, we could have, there was a lot in my hand. The F-bomb was dropped, I will tell you, for deadlines, okay? Because they're so flighty. And then you're working on your portfolio, and then there's the sketches and everything's fabulous and creative, but there's a deadline, and mom's having a complete panic attack in the kitchen thinking you're going to miss your deadline. Do any of you have parents or guardians that are freaking out about deadlines? Is that coming? Yes, hopefully. Maybe I'm the only crazy one. But it was such a prestigious school. Gabrielle really wanted to be in it, and she had to dot her I's, cross her T's, and it's not an easy process. It's a detailed driven application process for a reason, to see A, if you're passionate, and B, if it's what you really want.
And to wean out the people that don't make it in time and that don't meet the deadlines. And that brings up an interesting point. Matilda, is there any benefit to getting your application, to getting your portfolio and all of that stuff earlier rather than later, or at the deadline? Is that when you start looking through submissions, and that's why you give yourself that half year?
So I'm gonna always say the sooner the better, right? But the truth is, take the time that you need as long as you don't pass the deadline. So what I always say is, if you feel you need that extra 3 weeks because you're not there yet, or there's a portfolio critique day, National Portfolio Day, and you want us to look at it, take advantage of that, because the due date is February 1st. Don't wait till February 4th to submit it, or to call, can you get an extension for a week? You've been working on this, hopefully that entire year or 6 months, hopefully way before that, to be honest, but working on getting your application in. The other thing that's really important, especially for the portfolios, follow those instructions. Yeah. The instructions are crucial. If we tell you no more than 3 garments, do not submit 6 garments. And we really hold still on that. Just because even if your sewing is really strong, so you want to show a collection or 6 pieces, we only ask for 3. So we want everyone to have 1, no more than 3 pieces to show us. So you're going to pick your best 3 pieces, but that's really all we want to see, because now you're not following instructions, right? So we really just want the portfolio to the T on what we're requesting for you to submit.
So everybody heard that, right? You heard it here first, because each college really does have a different spin on their process. And that's why tonight is literally just about FIT. And FIT wants you to follow those instructions. And, you know, we're here to hold your hand. We're here to guide you through it, whether it's the sewing aspect or the illustration or even the digital, because you know, what Hannah had said at the beginning, she wasn't versed in illustration, and she ended up using a lot of crutches in the digital realm, which is really a great way to look at it, especially right now with where fashion is going and digitization. So, but at the same time, you have to give them what they need and not too much, because I'm sure Matilda has a lot of things to do. And if she asks you for 3 pieces, that's really what she wants. So I don't know, I don't see any other questions, but is there any other raindrops that you want to bestow upon us, Matilda, before we break this up?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's follow your passion. You gotta have passion. You gotta love what you do and do it for the right reasons. And to me, the right reasons is always because you're passionate about it. FIT definitely has the tools to give you so that you could build those skill sets to make it into the industry. It's gonna be a lot of work, but it's gonna be worth it. You just have to put the work in and know that this is what you want. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna do it for 4 years, but you're looking long-term. You're not just looking at graduating from FIT. You're looking at making a career out of this.
Thank you so much.
It is a great career. And I have to say, from the places I've traveled, and when I look at like the last 30 years of my life, absolutely phenomenal. From going from New York to Hong Kong, to going to shows in different parts of China, to traveling to Paris for the shows. I did feel like I was in The Devil Wears Prada at one point. And I remember the line where he I think, I wasn't sure if it was Anne Hathaway said, or Stanley Tucci, when he said, I would love to come to Paris and see it. Because you do end up going to the shows, and you end up going to Premiere Vision, which also you should Google. You should do that in New York. You can get the student passes for it. It's Premiere Vision, and they do one in New York. They do a main one in Paris. Virtually, they did it this year, but they do student passes, and it's all of the big mills globally from around the world, from Korea, China, Italy, France, even the houses that make for Chanel, Balenciaga, all of their fabrications, and they come to New York and show, and you can walk around the stands, order swatches and have a look. But it's very good for you just to get into that feel and get into the industry and walk in the steps of people who are actually in it. So I don't know if it's coming back this season, but they're planning on bringing it in next February or March back to New York and to Paris in the physical sense. So Premiere Vision would be one area that I would start as well. And it gives you an idea of the global landscape of fashion, and it can take you anywhere. Absolutely.
And Matilda, when is the next National Portfolio Conference?
So National Portfolio Day begins in September. We, meaning the board, is working on that. If you Google National Portfolio Day, the dates are going to be there right after, like, the second week of July. We'll post the dates on our website. Okay. And then what it does is it'll show you all the schools that are participating. So it'll tell you where FIT is going to be, whether that's SVA, whatever school you're applying to. It'll tell you which reps are going to be there and which ones are online. The one in New York is usually in October. The last weekend of October is usually in New York at the Javits. We're still working out the schedule for that, but you definitely want to take advantage of that. Absolutely.
So we have 4 months, right? Let's start building those skills. If you haven't registered yet, we have our foundations program, which is going to give you all of the things that you need to build your portfolio. That's a little bit longer and spread out. That starts June 28th. And then we have our high school portfolio focus program, and you will have individual mentors to help you focus on your portfolio to get you to where you need to be. And that one starts on July 5th. So I just want to thank Matilda and Hannah for coming out today, and Jacqueline, thank you so much. And all of you guys that have actually put this time forth, because this is what you want to do, and you do have a passion for fashion, and we want to see you succeed. We want to see you get into FIT, and we want to see where it goes in the future. So thank you so much. And thank you, Matilda. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you. Good luck, everyone. And if you have any questions, my email is there.
Yes.
So if anybody has any questions.
Oh, and there's no age limit, right? Latasha Leonard asked if there was an age limit to apply for FIT.
Nope, as long as they've graduated high school or have the equivalent.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I will send everybody that's here a copy of this video. And if you guys have any questions, our emails are at the beginning. And thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Have a great one.